Feels like we were just here. Hi, Daniel. We'll get started in just a minute or two.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome back, Rita.
Thank you.
Or are you back?
Back.
All right. Good. It didn't feel right with you gone so long. I know you were having fun, though.
I was. Time went way too fast.
How's that new grandbaby?
She's excellent. She's fantastic.
Glad to hear it. And so there were a lot of cousins too?
No, those actually were her siblings that I was with, but I also took my other grandson who lives here in Kingston with me.
Okay.
So, whole bunch of kids. Had a lot of fun.
All right. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Let's see. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. 8, 9. All right. I'll put my ukulele away. Looks like we got all 9 of us here, plus our invited guests. Yes. All right. What the world is that? All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Common Caucus meeting of the Common Council. Alyssa, we're recording, right? I see that we're live and we are recording. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I'll read the spiel and then we'll get going here. Thank you for joining the City of Kingston's Common Council at our caucus meeting tonight. Today is March the 1st, 2021. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few guidelines to help us navigate this system as efficiently and respectfully as possible. We ask that members of the public and press remain muted and off camera for the length of the meeting. The moderator for tonight is the City Clerk, Alyssa Tinty, and she reserves the right to mute anyone who unmutes themselves. Council members and city staff will control their own mute buttons. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you are not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. If a council member or staff wishes to speak, they will raise their hands. I will call on members by stating their names clearly for our audio listeners. All of our meetings are recorded. Both written and video transcriptions will be made available to the public on the city's website. Although we will not have public speaking tonight, as this is the caucus meeting, you can sign up to speak at our monthly council meetings. The next one is tomorrow. Please email Elissa Tinty to sign up by noon of tomorrow for the meeting, or you can submit written comment for the record by that same deadline tomorrow at noon. The email address is emtinty@kingston-ny.gov. You can also drop comments off at the drop box located outside of the side door of City Hall. We also encourage you to reach out to committee chairs or your ward's representative at any time. Clerk Elissa Tinty is the moderator for today's meeting. She has the right to lock and pause the meeting to eject anyone who has behaved inappropriately. Lastly, at tonight's meeting, we have in attendance members of the Common Council: Rita Worthington, Patrick O'Reilly, Michelle Hirsch, Steve Shabbat, Tony Davis, Steve Shabbat's shadow, Doug Coop, Don Tollerman, and Andrea Schott, somewhere between here and West Point, or maybe at West Point. Also in attendance, we have City Staff, Corporation Counsel, Kevin Bryant and Dan Gartenstein, as well as two guests for tonight, Steve Knox and Daniel Cantor. Steve Knox of Building and Safety, Daniel Cantor of the Kingston City Land Bank. We thank you for your patience during these difficult times, and on behalf of the Common Council and our guests, I wish you and your family good health. I now call this meeting to order at 7:05 p.m. Good evening, all. I thought we would start tonight. As I let you know, we're going to have these two guests. Steve Knox is going to speak to us about reports from Building and Safety. We also are going to have a brief report from Daniel Cantor of the Kingston City Land Bank, as is required in the KCLB charter. So we're glad to have Daniel here. I think, Daniel, let's start with you. So if we can keep this to about 5 to 10 minutes, unless there's some big news that you're going to spill over here.
There's always big news, Rennie.
I did forward the, that's true. I did forward your report, the written one, to all the members of the Common Council. So I don't think you need to go over that point by point.
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief. Thank you everybody for your time tonight. I'm really excited to talk to you about the Kingston City Land Bank. So my name is Daniel Cantor. I'm chairman of the board. I know that everyone wasn't here in 2018, so I think it's probably best if I start with a very brief explanation of kind of what land banks are. Land banks are nonprofit public authorities that are established to take title to properties that are owned by the municipality. So those generally are tax foreclosures. So typically that occurs through a relationship between the land bank and the municipality, where properties are transferred for $1 and the land bank then returns the property to productive use through kind of various means. But it's essentially a strategy to get properties back on the tax rolls quickly and responsibly. So normal land bank work tends to be emergency stabilization of structures, and then generally they just try to dispose of them as quickly as possible to any entity that has the capacity to put the property back to productive use. Our land bank operates quite a bit differently than that. So back in October of 2018, Mayor Noble was authorized by the Common Council to sell 36 designated surplus properties to the Kingston City Land Bank. Those properties are scattered all throughout the city. They're a mix of homes, vacant parcels. There's 2 commercial properties. After that resolution, which was resolution 172 in October of 2018, the mayor appointed all of our board members, and we began meeting in November of 2018 and had to form this brand new organization from the ground up. So it's been an active couple of years. So in very short order, we all had to kind of become little experts on affordable housing and city planning, while also crafting our own governing policies, our mission, setting up committees, coordinating with city staff on this relationship that, you know, we've been trying to get off the ground. So, and it is off the ground, which is great. So you should probably understand, though, that our land bank is very, very different than kind of the typical model. So the first thing is that we're poised to acquire all of these properties from the city of Kingston for the full price of the back taxes. So that is completely abnormal to Kingston. That puts the average property price at around $30,000. And that doesn't include any costs that we have to incur through title searches, environmental reviews, other due diligence, filing fees, all of those other extraneous costs that go into buying a property. And because of that, this is the policy, the cost is completely irrelevant to the condition of the property. So some of them are, I hesitate to say easy rehabs, but easier. Some of them are likely tear downs, they've really just degraded too far. So the implication of that policy is that we expend significant resources just to get to the closing table with the city. And so because of that, we need to be really strategic and responsible in the way that we're acquiring stuff, and making sure that we've done our due diligence, we've carefully considered kind of what pathways the property has to be returned to productive use. We can't just sort of be buying stuff left and right and figuring it out later. So one of the kind of challenges we've come up against is properties that we cannot get insurable title on. There's a number of reasons why that might take place. But what it means is that if we can't get insured title on the property, then we also can't really sell the property to anybody else who could, because they can't get insured title either. And so if our mission is to create affordable housing, we can't hand somebody a property who, you know, could end up in a courtroom trying to fight for their deed later on. So most land banks don't assume that kind of risk, and they also tend to sell transactionally to developers who, you know, are cash rich and can afford to take on that kind of liability. So those are some kind of significant differences. We also have a pretty low volume of foreclosures and a very, very competitive real estate market, as I'm sure you guys are all aware. So we've really chosen to place our primary focus on the production of affordable housing in the city of Kingston. We feel like that is the priority. It's where the pressing need is. It's certainly kind of where our board is the most interested in putting their attention. So because of that, we are also acting as a fully formed development shop to rehab these homes. We don't know of any other land bank in New York State that's doing that work, at least not by themselves. So it's all very cool and very challenging. So we, in order to provide these affordable homes, we kind of think that the best strategy is to basically provide turnkey renovations where you're not handing somebody making, you know, below the area median income a hugely expensive project that they can't afford to take on. So we are in the process of developing homes. I'll talk about that in a second. I do want to just take a minute to address kind of what might be the elephant in this lovely Zoom room that we're in. This process has absolutely taken time. For those of you that weren't around in 2018, I think there was an expectation put out there that, you know, wasn't necessarily realistic, and I think has, you know, certainly created the sense that we haven't developed as quickly as we should. You know, obviously we share that frustration. We wanted to get off to the races immediately too. But I think the point is that this work is hard and takes time. And we've, I think, spent our time wisely in trying to make sure that we're doing this the right way, with community involvement, with all of our legal bases covered, with all of the organizational structure set up, our corporate governance is in good shape. So all of that stuff, you know, had to be done. And to put it in context, land banks really never acquire property until their third year. We did it in less than 2 years in the midst of a global pandemic. We had to cycle out all of our original staff with more dedicated staff support. Our all volunteer board or committees haven't been able to meet in person for over a year now, or I guess just under a year now. But we've still made a ton of progress in the last year. So we purchased our first 3 homes in July from the city of Kingston. They are all under construction right now. If they are in your ward, we're happy to show you around our construction sites. And we think that we can condense that time frame down moving forward. So the way that this is working is that while the rehabs are taking place, the sales and marketing process is already underway. We have a partnership with Repco where they're taking on the sales and pre-qualifying buyers, getting them through homeowner counseling, all of these things that, you know, they're really set up to do. They've done for years. They do it well. We, you know, don't really have that capacity on our side. So it's a really good partnership. So of those 36 properties from the original resolution 172, we're still committed to buying as many of them as we can, as quickly as we can, but we don't want to kind of become part of the problem that kind of got us here of having these zombie properties that there's kind of no real plan or pathway for. So what I can say is that vacant and unbuildable parcels, which is generally true in Kingston, a lot has to be 50 feet wide to build on without a variance. Almost never are city-owned lots that wide. So they're generally unbuildable and just don't have a lot of relevance to our work. They also are expensive depending on which one. Some of them require demolition, which would, you know, divert really significant resources from what we're trying to do, which is to house families in our community. So I'm pleased to say by the end of the second quarter of this year, you have my word, you will have answers on all 36 properties. So either we have bought them, we are kind of formally rejecting them, we really, you know, are saying we can't really do anything with it, or we will sort of provide a pathway that the city can take to remedy title issues that we've found on various properties. So many of those things are not things that the land bank can just independently do, but the city can take some action, get to a point where we can get insurable title, and then we would be thrilled to buy the homes. So in the future, we're hoping that the Common Council and the whole community sort of can see that we're actually doing the thing and we're competent at it. And so we would like to kind of reach a point with the city and the Common Council where the land bank is able to evaluate properties that have been foreclosed on for the suitability for us to acquire them, and make decisions from there so that we're not sort of expected to just buy all these properties and figure it out, which is sort of what we walked into. And I think we've seen that it wasn't the best strategy. So I know Rennie sent around a kind of brief or long, depending how you look at it, a list of kind of what we've been up to. I'll run through some real quick things. We have a full board. Our current ED is Michael Gilliard. He brings with him 17 years of experience in affordable housing development, from single family homes to very large mixed use projects. He was former VP of real estate at Habitat for Humanity. So the guy knows what he's doing, which we very much appreciate. We've run title and environmental on 22 of those 36 properties. The remainder of those are the vacant parcels and properties that likely need demolition that, you know, we need a lot of kind of internal discussion around whether we're interested in taking on demolition and the cost involved in that, particularly after the cost to buy the property. So hang tight on that one. We've been awarded a $500,000 grant from Enterprise for rehab of single family homes to be sold affordably. We've also gotten a $780,000 grant recently from the Novo Foundation, also for the rehab of these homes and for various kind of operating costs. Most recently, we received another $275,000 grant from the Novo Foundation for acquisition, so specifically to buy down this list of 36 homes or 36 properties. So that's great. Right now, we have these 3 rehabs underway. As I said, qualified applicants will be families making between 60 and 80% of the area median income. So 64 Van Buren will be at 60%, 248 Main Street, 70%, and 174 Hasbrook at 80%. So our strategy there was to try to kind of serve as many people as possible with this first round of rehabs. I'm excited to say today we notified Mayor Noble that we are ready to close on 149 Greenkill. So that will be another home in this pilot. And then the 5th home is a little bit up in the air right now, but we will find out very soon. And that hopefully will also be in Midtown. So that would make 3 homes in Midtown and 2 in different parts of the city. Our bylaws specifically stipulate that I tell you the money is expended. Lots of money flying around, so I don't think you need every cent probably, but the top line is that we are responsible for about $730,000 being paid to the city of Kingston. So that came in the form of property acquisitions, also subsidizing various staff salaries, including our former executive director, Brenna Robinson, our former CFO, our former housing rehab specialist, a senior account clerk, and the City of Kingston's first director of housing initiatives, Mike Gilliard. There was also costs associated with snow removal on city-owned property, tree removal on city-owned properties, and we renovated an office space for ourselves at 17 Hoffman in lieu of renovating an entire house on Franklin Street into offices. We found a nice little office space. We put about $10,000 into it. It is the city's property to do with what as they please, so it might, be an office for other city departments eventually that are short on space in City Hall. So, and that doesn't even count the parking tickets I've gotten for meetings that ran over at City Hall. So, I mean, we're close to $1 million. So in terms of what's next, we are certainly not slowing down. Mike Gilliard is now our dedicated ED. There is a new director of housing initiatives at the city who started today, I believe. So we look forward to working with him. We will likely, so after we sort of figure out this list of 36, which is going to happen in the next couple of months, and we'll be buying some stuff in the meantime, once we have all of that squared away, we have clear answers on here's what we are not taking, here's what we are. We'll likely be asking for additional acquisitions from the city. Obviously, that will require all of your support. So please keep an eye on us because I think you will enjoy what you're seeing. So we really do believe this is an all volunteer board. I'm also a volunteer. We really believe that this is the beginning of a much, much better system than the city had in the past. So the auction system, this sort of free-for-all that resulted in a lot of properties being owned by speculators or absentee landlords, everything we're doing is essentially trying to mitigate that and make sure that these homes go back into our community to people who need housing and wouldn't otherwise be able to compete in this extremely competitive market we found ourselves in, particularly since COVID. So what that also means is we are not we can't renovate every single house. It would cost too much. It would take way too long. We are not here to kind of hold properties hostage while we get around to a renovation. So there's been various calls for, why aren't they just putting out RFPs and letting people take these on? That just hasn't happened yet, but it will. So we plan to do some of that this year. We've developed 4 kind of main pathways for these properties. And so the first pathway is the one that we're doing now, these full rehabs, and those will be sold as affordable homes. The second pathway is what I was just talking about, the as-is sale. Interested parties would submit proposals for redevelopment and undertake work themselves with the help of our local workforce and with some enforcement from the land bank side to make sure that they're actually doing the project they said they would do, and not just sitting on the property. The third pathway is joint venture agreements with local developers and other organizations. So those would allow us to leverage resources of development partners to produce more affordable housing more quickly. So there's a few lots that we think that we can assemble with contiguous lots and put up, several units rather than focus on only single family. And then the fourth pathway has to do with the unimproved parcels. We don't want to spend a whole ton of resources on it, but we look forward to a partnership with the Kingston Land Trust. And there's a few sort of side lots that are likely, fairly easy to handle. And so that's the fourth pathway. I tried to do that fast. I don't think I did a very good job, but thank you all for your time. We really appreciate you giving us the opportunity, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Great. Yes, thank you, Daniel. There was a lot there. I can testify that progress is being made because one of the houses you mentioned that's being rehabbed is right down the block here. The neighbors are very excited about this. So I see Michelle Hirsch has question, comment, then Don Hollerman.
Hi, Danielle. Michelle, Alderwoman Hirsch, Ward 9. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So I'm just curious what you mean by the land banks in New York typically acquire properties for $1. Because I'm familiar with the Land Bank Act, which is not-for-profit corporation law, and it says that it doesn't stipulate that land banks acquire homes for $1 from the municipality.
Correct. It doesn't stipulate that, so all places kind of figure this out differently. That is just how it's generally done. It's sort of the same philosophy as programs that go back to like the 70s where, Buffalo would say, here's a house for $1, but you have to fix it up and live in it for the next 10 years. So it's sort of that at a bigger scale. Essentially, the land banks, nationally and in New York State are not nearly as well funded as we are lucky to be. And so they don't have the resources to be paying the full price of the back taxes on properties. There's also significant investment after they get the property. So generally the municipalities recognize that those properties are a huge drain on city resources because a vacant property means there's police there all the time, there's fire there all the time, it's a public safety hazard, the property is degrading. So the land bank comes in and at least stewards the property and takes on some of that responsibility for security and making sure the sidewalks are shoveled and things like that. So in general, it's, a recognition of the fact that the municipality is not equipped to really handle property, and it's better off in this other entity that will get it back onto the tax rolls more quickly than they can and with better outcomes. So that's
Daniels, but it's not just the $1 because the land bank also pays the back taxes to the city, right?
Yes, to be very clear, in Kingston, we pay the back taxes. What Michelle is asking is about, I believe, about other land banks in the state that don't do that, which as far as I know is all of them. This acquisition policy is, as far as I know, unique to Kingston.
Thanks
Well,
for-
I think that many other land banks in the state these are created where there's a lot of blight, like a lot more blight and a lot of more empty houses than we have, in the city of Kingston. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So Albany County Land Bank, I believe, takes about 6,000 properties a year, or maybe there's 6,000 foreclosures, and of that they take, a pretty large portion. So yeah, it kind of goes back
so are
to,
you expecting the council to in the future approve transfers of $1?
that conversation is not really under consideration right now. I mean, I think if the city of Kingston wanted to be sort of more in line with how these things generally work, that's what they would do. It's not really it's not what we're asking for right now. And it's yeah.
Okay, because you brought it up, so I just thought I'd ask.
No problem.
Are you done, Michelle?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Don Tollerman?
All right. Hi, Daniel. First, just thank you for all the tremendous effort. I know it was a tough start, and you guys seem to be really on a roll now. So much better place, and we appreciate all the good work. I think I missed something. I was curious about the zombie houses, those identified by the Patterns for Progress study, which identified, I think 199 homes that were for one reason or another not being lived in.
Mm-hmm.
Did you address that? And can you say, is there an opportunity to acquire some of those?
So I can't speak to it much because that was the Patterns for Progress with the city of Kingston. I believe the new director of housing initiatives, that's one of his kind of primary focuses as of today. Short answer, yes, there is an opportunity for us to acquire them. Long answer, first it would, well, so, typically this is a municipality land bank relationship. And so we feel like it's very important for us to stay focused on the foreclosures.
Mhm.
That being said, we have a pretty low volume in Kingston. It's totally within our ability to, buy things that are not city tax foreclosures. We could go after bank foreclosures. Those things are a lot more complicated, and we don't have a nice partner with the city on it, but it's certainly possible. So my understanding is that study has been done. It's now sort of in the hands of the new director of housing initiatives, still with some involvement from Patterns for Progress. That's mostly what I know about it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Other questions? Rita Worthington?
Hi, Daniel. Rita
Hi.
Worthington here.
Hi, Rita.
Hi, thank you for coming tonight and then giving us all of this information and explaining exactly what the land bank does. Appreciate that. So I'm assuming that, and also you guys are working on the house right down the street, 64 Van Buren, so that's fantastic. So you talked about the pathways that you have going forward, identifying the four, one of them being possibly selling some of the properties to developers or putting RFPs out there for other people that might want to buy the property. So I'm assuming that whomever buys the properties from you, should you go that way, will have to meet the requirement of the land bank, considering they would have to consider the factors of affordable housing, right? They would have to stay in that realm. It wouldn't be someone coming in and buying the property and then selling it for what they want or doing what they want. It would be specifically for affordable housing and making sure that it's in the AMI of what you all require. Yes?
Yes, with the caveat that, we can't necessarily guarantee who is going to apply for homes. So, there's certain homes that are incredibly far gone, would take a ton of resources to do. And, I can't independently guarantee that somebody will come in with a qualified proposal that would meet all of those restrictions. I think in some of those cases, you at least aim for a primary residency requirement so that at least, you know, the person is there for a number, like 10 years is what we're doing for these homes. I think there's also opportunity that we're trying to develop right now to do these sort of creative developer arrangements where we're sort of activating local developers, but still selling at affordable levels where we don't necessarily have to fully manage and undertake a rehab, just because it's a lot for a small organization to take on. So it's absolutely where our focus and intention is. I wish I could say 100% yes on every single property. It might, you know, it might not be the case for every single one, but certainly the ones that we are rehabbing, certainly the ones that we feel like are, you know, lighter lifts in terms of rehabs, and really any other one that we can possibly figure out a pathway to do that with. I can tell you our board is, and funders are in no way interested in kind of handouts to developers or out of towners or any other kind of negative outcome.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Anybody else? Or we're gonna let Danielle off the hook?
I'll stay forever. I mean, I got nothing to do.
All right. I'm going to take that for everybody's satisfied. Thank you, Daniel, for coming. We really appreciate the work that you're doing, and it's good to hear straight from you what's happening there. Also, do you all, will you be able to take any interested council folks on tours of the houses that you've rehabbed?
Absolutely. So we have 3 active construction sites right now. We do monthly walkthroughs, you know, to check up on progress. I'm there a couple times a week, but yeah, we can let you guys know, you know, if it's a property in your ward, or I think we're a pretty open book on that. I also will get fired if I don't say that you can follow our progress on Facebook, Instagram, our website. There's other media outlets right now, like Radio Kingston, running ads for the open applications for the homes. So yeah, please kind of keep up to date. We'll try to keep you guys up to date, but it's going to be a really exciting year, and watch this space, I guess.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks.
All right. Now we'll move on to our other guest, Steve Knox. Thank you, Steve, for being here tonight. We appreciate you coming out.
Sure.
And, or I guess, well, it's a metaphor in this virtual world coming out. So we invited you here to discuss getting reports from building and safety. So I wonder if you could tell us what you might envision for an adequate reporting process so that the Common Council can have a good idea of what's going on with building and safety throughout the year.
Sure. As you probably know, I'm required to provide a written report to council on an annual basis. Those reports are submitted to the mayor, who compiles all the department heads' reports and provides that to council and the public. So I mean, we do fulfill that requirement through that reporting. I'm not sure. I hope that all of you have seen the annual reporting, which basically lists the amount of inspections we've done. How many complaints we've responded to, what permits were issued. I mean, how many permits were issued, and a number of other topics. Having spoken with a number of council members, I just wanted to come here and really clarify what it is that you are all looking for in a report. I know what the city code states in their requirement for reporting. I think it's a little bit unrealistic today. Maybe when that was written, the activity through the department was a lot less, but to provide all the documentation that it lists in the record keeping in 17214 is, I think, probably unrealistic, and you guys would have a mound of documents and paperwork. Just a list of applicants for building permits alone. I think the building department did about 1,350 building permits last year. To give you a little bit of perspective there, the town of Ulster did 300 building permits all last year. So you can see the type of volume that Kingston's going through. And I know everyone sees all the building and construction and home sales that are happening right now in the city and stuff. That's all direct work for our department. So I took a quick look at just the building permit applications, and just listing those for the year is about 126 pages of documentation. And that's just for that. So I don't think you want me to send you guys, that type of documentation. So I just want more clarity and stuff of exactly what you're looking for, and possibly some other things that may not be listed in the city code that you're looking for.
Thank you for that overview. Rita Worthington.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Good, Rita, how are you?
Good, thank you. So you said that annually you provide a report to the mayor, and then he in turn is to provide it to the council. Did I hear you say that?
That's correct. The mayor does a yearly report, which is basically derived from each department head's report to him, and then that report is made available to council and anyone in the city.
Okay, so I know it would be an awful lot of work for your office to do to provide us the reports according to what the code says, but I mean, what do you think that you can do? I mean, you just said, what was it, 120, 150 permits or something like that? Rather than giving us a report of 126 pages of that application, wouldn't it be easier to say, well, this is how many permits that we did this year, and this is how many violations it was? That would also produce or put a lot of strain on your office to do that?
No, that's what I provided in the year-end report. That's exactly what I've provided already.
Michelle Hirsch, then Tony Davis.
Hi, Steve. Thanks for being here tonight. I had put in a request to, I'm the one that, started looking into this and about the various reports that were due to the council. One being the one you just mentioned that comes in yearly. And as far as to my knowledge, I've never seen it. And then there were another report under zoning that was supposed to be submitted to us per code 40551. Shall keep a record of other various areas and report no less than every 3 months to the council.
I'm actually not aware of that, so it's something I'd have to take a look at.
Okay. So for myself, I would be interested in knowing, what's going on in my ward, what buildings that are having problems, what buildings are vacant, what buildings maybe even for business reasons have been issued certificates of occupancy. So even, we know what's going on. We can help mitigate and stem problems. We can help be eyes and ears, you know. Then when it comes time for budget time, we know all the hard work that you guys are doing, and we, you know, we're just up to speed with you. You know, we hear reports from all various different boards, but we're kind of, I feel a little in the dark about, you know, what happens at the building department.
Sure. Again, I mean, I'll certainly take a look at what the requirements are for reporting for zoning and stuff. It's kind of, I haven't read that, and I don't have an issue with reporting and providing whatever information is requested. I don't think any council member can say that they called and asked me that for information that I haven't provided to them. You know, that's certainly something that's always open. In fact, I invited council down to get a good feel for what building safety does. I want council to understand better what's going on in building safety, so that they can understand what we need to continue our providing providing the service to the public that we do.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about creating more work for you guys. It's about, in the end, we are, you know, help represent the constituents, our ward, and are a conduit, you know, of information. So.
Yeah, no, I certainly understand that. You know, I also, you know, want it to be known exactly how much work is being done by our office, because I mean, we certainly get sent down quite a bit more work, and just kind of to give you a little bit of a perspective. You know, we were required to do revise the rental property registration form last year and send to include the CARES Act information, and we're sending that out every year now, because it also is including information on whether properties are vacant or not.
Mm-hmm.
But and on paper it doesn't look like it's very much work, but it's probably takes my staff, probably 3 or 4 staff, about 3 hours a day for 2 weeks to get that information out. And then, you know, when it comes back in, it all has to be, you know, input into the system, and you know, the information analyzed so that we can provide, you know, that information to the council or to the mayor. And you know, at this time we're extremely busy because we do have so much construction going on in the city, that there's just not a lot of time. There's no time really to add anything else. And I know you guys have short-term rental law that you're looking at right now, that work is going to end up on our lap. And we just got commercial property fire inspections moved to building safety, which is going to basically be about 800 inspections a year that's being added to our department. And I mean, we're not getting a lot of additional assistance to do all this work. So I know it only looks like, when someone asks me for a report or something, that it's not going to take much time. But when I'm already working a lot of extra hours, and I don't really have time to finish and do everything that we're supposed to be doing now, that little extra means it's huge.
But are you all putting all of this information, you know, your work, and doesn't it all go into like Municity or a database, because it all is supposed to be public record, all of the work?
The information does go into Municity, but we're upgrading a higher level of our newer level of municipal software now, that's going to allow us to do a little bit more filtering of the information that's input. But the old system didn't really allow for a ton of filtering. The system was very difficult. I mean, we were working with their initial software, their first version, which is out many years ago, and I don't think the city was actually paying for it. We were kind of their their trial city, because it was a local company. So we never really upgraded all those years. So we're still working on kind of an antiquated system. But the newer system will allow us to filter more, more information and stuff. I'm not sure exactly how much more yet, because we don't have we don't have it in place yet. But we should in the next month have it in place, and I'll have a better idea of exactly what I can pull from.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you.
Tony Davis.
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Tony.
So really, if I'm getting this, you're saying that it appears that you're saying you're undermanned or short staffed at this time, and you are expected, you are going to be expected to take on more work and responsibilities.
That absolutely.
So realistically, and from the code, from what I read, it says you should supposed to be give a report or something every quarter. And realistically, then, what do you think that you could produce to us? I mean, I know it's been thrown out here, a lot of information that people are assuming. I mean, from my conversations with you, it doesn't appear that you're going to be able to get all that information to us. And again, I don't want something that's going to be 126 pages. I'm not going to get through it. All right. And if it's just going to be quarterly, that means now you got to, each person is going to get 126 pages every 3 months with maybe little to no change in it. And so realistically, what can you think that your department or you could produce for us that would give us information about building permits and whatever you think is valuable to us, and as all the people?
Well, what I suggest, and I understand everyone's need to understand what building safety is doing more, or understand what's going on in their sections of town. I think it's realistic for me to be able to do written reports to you, every 6 months. I think that's fine. I really think that's going to be as much information as you really want. What I would propose, though, that we do is when we have difficult properties or something that we feel that we can work or would we could work with all the person and kind of inform them of some problem issues in their wards, and even request some assistance from them to help us mitigate whatever problems we're having. Somebody, as far as reporting and stuff is concerned, I will have a better handle on exactly what I can give you once we get the new system in place and stuff. But I see that as reasonable with the amount of work load that we have right now.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Anybody else? Doug Coop?
Yeah, Steve, this is Doug Coop in Ward 2. As you know, over the past year, I've received a lot of complaints that I forward to you personally. And in every single case, you have responded to me in a very professional and timely manner. And I really appreciate that. And I just want to acknowledge it. It's good work. Thank you. Please keep it up.
Thank you. Thank you. We try to address everything, as quickly as possible and stuff. And again, the office is extremely busy. but we try to work through everything. I mean, sometimes there's issues with being able to get a violation corrected. If there's someone that is not willing to cooperate, or there might be circumstances where no one's available to conversate or touch bases with the building department because they're either maybe in jail or deceased, and those things take a little bit longer for us to get through, but we diligently try to work through whatever complaints.
Like I say, thank you for the good work.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it.
Anybody else? Steve, so do you have an estimate of when the new version of Municity will be up and running?
I'm being told by them that they hope to have us up and running by the end of this month, but there are multiple departments and stuff that are involved and stuff, so it's just.
All right, well, thank you for that. So if there's no other questions or comments, then thank you, Steve, for coming out. As to second what Doug Coop said, we do appreciate the work you're doing. We also appreciate how diligent you all have to be given the great amount of work and the increasing amount of work that you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we can now move on to the actual purpose of our meeting. I guess that's our purpose too. Michelle Hirsch?
Yes, it's just a point of order question. I mean, there wasn't an agenda tonight, so people, the public didn't know that we were going to be having guests, or this wasn't put out there. So I'm just
Okay,
wondering.
right, this should be on the agenda. Thank you for that.
Thanks.
All right, then, speaking of agendas, we can go through the items that are on our legislation list for March. So resolution 28. Let me get this so I can read this. Jeffrey?
Yeah, this is something that came out of Laws and Rules. This is, there are, I believe, 3 different definitions of what the definition of the word hotel in our code. One of them is on the zoning code. So we are, what the Laws and Rules Committee passed was 2 different resolutions. So it's 28 and 35. So 28 is referring the part of it that's on the zoning code for comment to the zoning, to the planning board, the Ulster County Planning Board, and the HLPC. And that is so we can change that language. That is the process whenever you're changing language on the zoning code. And the next one is 30, what did I say, 35, and that is just to change the wording on the other 2 so that it is compliant with what the Ulster County defines as a hotel, to include short-term rentals.
Great. Any comments? Everybody okay with this piece of legislation and the related 135? Any questions or comments before we move on? Patrick O'Reilly.
Can that description be read to us and maybe at the council meeting?
Sure, if you give me a second, I can pull that up. So the definition of hotel and motel is a building or portion of it which is regularly used and kept open for lodging of transient guests as on an overnight basis. The term hotel or motel includes short-term rentals, an apartment hotel, motor court inn, tourist cabins, boarding house or club, or similar hotel or motel type of accommodations by whatever name designated, whether or not meals are served, and shall include those facilities commonly known as bed and breakfast and short-term rentals. So the language that's being added is the short-term rentals to that definition.
Right? Is that good, Patrick? Great. Thank you, Jeffrey. All right. Our next item, number 29, recommending approval for transfer in the engineering department in the amount of $35,343 from contingency to pay CSX Railroad. This is actually an old bill that engineering kind of rediscovered. So any questions, comments about this? Is everybody okay with paying our past debt to CSX? Don Tollerman?
How much is it for?
35,000 and change.
I'm just, okay, and wouldn't that need to pass through the finance committee?
It did.
Oh, okay. And what was it for again?
It was CSX Railroad.
Right.
It was related to a city storm drain project, having to move stuff on their property and so forth.
Thank you.
All right, good. Resolution 30, approving transfer in the grants management department for $6,000 to pay the cost of overtime for Ruth Ann. Everybody okay with this one? Patrick O'Reilly?
Is Ruth Ann part of the CSEA?
She is, yes, I'm pretty sure.
Is anybody sure?
Well, because she's not management confidential.
Do these kind of increases in pay, this is overtime? It seems it's overtime pay, right?
Correct.
Does the CSEA have anything to do with these kind of we're paying our overtime in advance kind of thing? We're deciding on our overtime in advance.
The issue here is
isn't that a wage issue?
It's there is an element of contract because it's put in the budget. You know, we have put an amount of overtime for each department. The issue here is that they've had a recent upsurge in the amount of work in the grants department. So normally this kind of overtime, you probably would move money around within the department, but because it's happening early in the year, it's too early for that kind of response. And so this is taking the money from contingency to pay for Ruth Ann's extra work here. It's money that will recoup us money in the future when the grants roll in. I'm not sure of her exact step and so forth. Tony Davis?
You're saying from contingency, it doesn't state that on the resolution. Just recommend approval for transfer in the grants management department. Contingency was the one prior for CSX. So I just want to clarify that. Or
yeah, I don't have the, let's see here.
I don't think it was contingency. I thought part of it was, or
Part
maybe
of it is
from
contingency.
contingency, the other part is from engineering.
Right, that's correct. So yeah, if you look at the resolution, it says from engineering, medical insurance, 1,000, engineering regular pay 2,000, contingency 3,000.
all right, yeah, I don't have the actual resolution in front of me. I just had the list, the agenda. So okay, so part of it is coming from contingency.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was wrong saying the whole thing did. It's
Okay.
3,000 coming from contingency. Thank you, Elissa.
Thank you.
Steve Shabbat?
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to add our discussions with Kristen about this amount. A lot of this has to do with them maintaining progress in some of the grants that we have. If they can't find a way to get these things done timely, as Kristen said, we could put ourselves in danger of either losing the grant or damaging our credibility and our ability to get grants in the future. We do very well. They really get a lot of grants, and I would hate to see anything put that in jeopardy. Over 6,000 is, to me, that's a lot of money, but in the scheme of things, I think it's worth it, to keep this process running along smoothly.
Yep, Patrick.
I forget why she said she didn't budget this money into her budget. Why didn't she budget? I forget why she said she didn't budget it. She should be budgeting this in her budget. What's going on?
As I remember, they've had quite a number of things come in. They can't always predict, when they're going to get news about a particular grant coming in. Then they're up against deadlines on other grants. So they try their best. And like I said, it's a normal thing later in the year for there to be overtime issues and then moving money. So they're doing that partially here and then asking for 3,000 from contingency. Michelle Hirsch?
Yes, my understanding also is that all of the departments were asked to, really submit a very bare bones as possible budget for 2021 due to COVID and not knowing what our economic outlook was going to look like. So she didn't she didn't ask for overtime in their budget year.
Good. Thank you. All right, so we're good on that one? Okay. Resolution 31. This is moving money, interdepartmental transfer in the comptroller's department to balance the budget. This one has no financial impact. Everybody okay with that? 32 is recommending approval for a transfer in the planning department from 2020 in the amount of $65 to cover cost of overrun and advertising expenses. This also has no financial impact. Is everybody okay with that one? I'm assuming. 33, approval for a 2021 transfer in the city clerk's building maintenance budget in the amount of $23,000 for carryover of unspent monies from the NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities Grant. Sorry, I'm trying to catch up here. This is for the City Hall energy efficiency upgrades reimbursement. So if I remember correctly, the financial impact is 0. We're all right with that? Okay. 34 is for a transfer in the fire department in the amount of $33,000 to pay out a firefighter who retired in January 2021. Everybody okay with that one? Yeah, and this one also, similar to the other one, usually we would try to move some money around, but this one also is going to come out of contingency. So number 35, adopting a uniform definition of, we already talked about this one. I'm guessing that that's hotel, not O hotel or O-tel. All right, so we're good with that one. Resolution 36, authorizing the city of Kingston, this is related to 28 and 35, authorizing the city of Kingston to enter into an executive and execute an intermunicipal agreement for sharing of information for short-term rental properties with the county of Ulster. Jeffrey, you want to tell us a little bit about that for folks who may not have been there?
Sure. So Ulster County already collects information about what short-term rentals are, or they're about to pass legislation to collect information about short-term rentals. So this is just so the city can enter into an agreement so that we can get that information from them, so that we're not duplicating work by trying to collect our own information.
Everybody okay with that? More information, a good thing.
Yes, the county has an agreement with an agency that collects information, and then they also have an agreement with Airbnb, so they're able to share information with municipalities so that we can continue working on short-term rental legislation based on data.
Great. Yeah,
And,
this is a good move.
Legislator Donaldson said that that will be executed on the county side in March.
Oh, great. Okay. Look forward to hearing more about that. Resolution 37 is about altering the zoning to rezone 79 Hurley Avenue. This is the old Daley Freeman building, which was an older, some other property. Everybody okay with this one? Yes, we're good. Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Patrick.
It's kind of a sad day when your local newspaper gets boarded up and leaves. Who's going to watch the politicians?
You are.
Who's going to?
Well, they're still around.
Nobody is. That's the problem. Nobody's watching.
The Freeman is still going to be around. They're just on a reduced office space. They don't have as much staff, and the newspaper is not being printed in that building anymore.
Yeah, and Patrick, look down at the bottom of your screen. That's a reporter down there who's listening to everything we say. Tony Davis?
No, I was just going to echo what Jeffrey just said. I mean, we're in the 2021, 21st century, in COVID. You don't need the buildings anymore for you to do your job. You can work out of your home. And so in that, like Freeman, the building's been, the staff has been reduced for several years, and that building still remained the same size. So I'm assuming that the owners of the Freeman are wanted the downsides too, and not be paying that kind of mortgage or lease or whatever they're paying for that. And now they're going to be able to find a smaller place to relocate to, or as you state, and people can and work out of their homes now in regard to the way things are going now.
All right, but we hear you, Patrick. It's a big change.
Still kind of sad, a little sad. Still a little sad.
Hear you. Definitely a different world. All right, so then. 38, authorizing the release of the restriction in the deed for 162 to 188 4th Avenue. This is basically a holdover from long ago, releasing this property from the requirement to tell the council when the property is being sold. Everybody okay with this one? Comments, concerns? All right. Resolution 39, allocating $95,000 of the Kingston's round 1 fiscal year 2019 CDBG CV funding. Steve Shabbat.
Yes, sir. Well, as we discussed pretty much monthly, we're always looking for ways to use funds that haven't been used. This is one of them. We had a couple projects that we didn't use money, so we reallocated this money, the same as the next resolution 2. projects that, you know, are not coming to fruition. We're using for other projects that, you know, as we discussed before, we're under some time constraints for these things. So we're constantly looking for projects that have been initiated, you know, we're not looking to start things from the ground floor, but if we can jump in on things like the next one is, you know, with parking lot improvements that bids are already out, those kind of things. So, you know, we're just using up the money that was previously allocated for other things. That's, you know, pretty much the long and short of it. Both of these resolutions are the same thing. Not the same thing, but the same theory.
Great. And these
And for
are
one reason or other, projects haven't moved forward. The next one, there's a couple things. The YMCY Park had a tough time getting documentation for some of the things they've done, and they really had to give up what they were doing. The basketball court, that was another problem. That was Midtown Rising. We had agreed to refurbish the basketball court at the church on Franklin Street, but they no longer have a lease to have the basketball court there and activities there. So the money was not needed. That's being used for improvements at Block Park to the parking lot. We sorely need some attention, as Tony, I'm sure, can attest to. He's down there. It's been in sad shape for quite a number of years. Go ahead, Tony.
No, and again, I know I spoke to that to the mayor and some months ago, and when we were talking about it, we're probably going back to the summer, and I had you know, and made that statement, that call for that Block Park needed to be taken care of, and you know, seemed like Block Park was always pushed to the side when a lot of other parks are being and renovated. So I'm glad that the community development and the mayor and seeing, you know, we're able to see that Block Park is going into despair, and especially with the parking lot. And I'm grateful that you guys found money and set aside money for that to be redone, that parking lot. So, because it is, like you said, it's barely needed and surely needed. It's like going through a minefield when you drive down in there. So I thank you, and I thank the mayor for your committee for finding in those funds and putting those funds aside to do that parking lot.
Yeah, I think this is really good. And actually, you can attest to this, Tony. It's actually dangerous getting out of that parking lot. The land is now probably a good 6 inches lower than it used to be. So, you know, trying to get onto a Beale Street from the parking lot, you're kicking up stones and, you know, trying to pull out there quickly. This is going to be a pretty comprehensive repair, not just blacktop. They're going to raise up the whole level of the parking lot. They're going to address some issues, and you know, the bids have already been out. This is a project that's pretty much ready to roll out, I believe. So, you know, I think these are some wise uses of money that otherwise we might not be using them if we don't jump on the opportunities.
And there's no financial impact, just to clarify, right?
Correct.
Money's passing through. Great. All right.
Yes.
So any other comments on that? All right, thanks. So that's 3940. 41 is ratifying the Public Safety Task Force proposal. Everybody okay with this one? Any comments or concerns? Doug Coop, then
Yeah,
read.
what does this resolution say to the utilization of SROs in the schools? And SRO stands for something, research, what does it stand for?
Safety Resource Officer.
Resource officer.
What does this proposal speak to SROs?
Well, there is part of the report that suggests a different approach to SROs than police in the schools, but the issue there is one that will be taken up by the school boards. The city doesn't have any say over whether the school system chooses to use SROs or truant officers or social workers or what have you. So this was part of the governor's charge to the task force was to consider the question of SROs, but we just need to clarify that we're accepting the report, which doesn't mean that we can or should act on every part of the report. So another example is some of the report suggests some changes to the police commission, which would likely require a citywide vote to change the charter. So clearly council can't do that. We're accepting the report, and then we'll be looking at how to implement those parts that are possible in the future. Does that explain it, Doug?
So basically to be determined.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I believe the report is on the website, Doug, if you want to go and read.
Oh, I know it's there, yeah. I
Okay,
was just looking for a concise answer to my
Okay.
concern.
okay.
Well, I don't know if what I gave you was concise, but I hope it was adequate.
Yeah, you did.
All right. Yeah, and this is one of the things we have to keep reminding folks is that we're not accepting every proposal in here. We're simply ratifying that we've received it. All right, anything else about it? Remember too that we have to, the other issue here is that we have to pass this. If we don't get it to the governor's administration before April 1st, we risk losing state monies. So we're under the pressure here of time. All right, good. So everybody's okay with this? All right. There are two things to add from the Special Finance Committee meeting tonight. The first one is that the Special Finance Committee voted in favor of transferring 21 North Front Street to the KLDC as part of the development of a expanded parking garage on that property. Everybody okay with this? Any
What was the vote?
questions, comments? What's that?
What was the vote?
The way we count it's 4-1, but the one was Steve Shabbat recusing himself. So in essence, it was unanimous in favor of the transfer.
Okay.
So is everybody in favor of the transfer for tomorrow night?
Excuse me, Rennie,
Yes, Dan.
did you check your text message? I sent you a text message earlier.
About the process for tomorrow night?
Just confirming that everybody received the documents that were forwarded this afternoon, that those documents will be made part of the record, will all be posted with tomorrow's agenda.
Okay, so yes, everybody look at your city email to make sure you receive these documents. It's things like the original RFQ. It's documents, it's the seeker document from, or the decision from the planning board. So basically, these are public documents that we have to recognize so that folks will see the basis for the decision here. Am I saying that right, Dan?
Yeah, there are a total of 12 documents that were forwarded, ranging from the original RFQ to the full secret determination by the planning board, a number of traffic studies, the memorandum from both attorneys addressing the issues that you have to decide. I just wanted to confirm that everyone received those documents. I know there were some issues with them downloading those documents. We will ask the city clerk to post for tomorrow's meeting. Again, the vast majority of them are already public documents that are already available on various parts of the website, but they will be collated and put together for each of you for the meeting tomorrow night to be officially made part of the record for you to consider during your deliberations.
All right. So any questions, comments? Is that clear to everyone? Okay. And remember, we will need a 2/3 majority, 6 in favor for it to pass. So the other thing that we approved at tonight's meeting was some more CDBG funds for park renovations. We're getting up into hundreds of thousands of dollars here, which will be a really wonderful addition. So any questions about that? I know that that was recent. This request was sent out this last Friday. Any comments? Everybody okay with this? Spending CDBG money for parks. All right.
What resolution number is that?
I'm not sure if it'll be 42 or 43, because these were both just passed at the Special Finance Committee meeting tonight, so they'll have to be numbered by the clerk for tomorrow night's meeting.
Okay.
Thanks. The last of all then is the first reading of Local Law 1 relating to the Planning Board, the composition, terms and vacancies and so forth. This, go ahead, Jeffrey, tell us about it.
Yeah, so this is the first reading, so there won't be a vote on it. And this is just to change the language on the planning board section of the code. Now it states that there shall be 2 city employees, and we're just changing that word shall to, I forget the exact wording, but it's to the effect of could be city worker, but it doesn't have to be a city worker because right now we're having a hard time filling those positions. So we want to make it as broad as possible so that the planning board can easily reach a quorum when they meet.
It was maybe.
May, yes, correct.
All right, any questions on that? Patrick O'Reilly.
Dan Gardenstein, how are you? Is there any implications from the change on this legally?
No, it actually brings us into compliance with state law. That's what the state law says, that the mayor basically can appoint city staff members, doesn't require it. Our code, for some reason, had changed that to a shall from the may, and we're just bringing it into compliance and giving the mayor a bigger pool to appoint qualified members from.
Is that all right, Patrick? Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up, or have we had enough? I'm thinking we've had enough. Motion to adjourn. Jeffrey, seconded by Michelle. All in favor? All right. Good night, all. We'll look forward to seeing you all at 7:30 tomorrow. Have a great evening. Look out for the wind.